Good morning. I'd like to take you on a little tour of my craft room, which is also a guest room. And I love watching craft room tours of crafters. And I'm really actually pretty happy with what I've done with the space that I have available. So I'd like to share that with you today. And there's a few things I do that I haven't seen focused on by others that may be helpful to a few of you out there. So this will start here in the closet. I'll just do a tour all the way around to begin with. But this was the second bedroom of our condominium, and this is the closet. And originally it had two standard closet doors, and we've replaced those with these panels. 3 panels covers the opening perfectly. These are from IKEA, and I saw them at a friend's house, and they are perfect and make much more sense for someone who needs to reach into their closet all the time. As you see, I have a closet that is crammed full, and this is only 2/3 of it. I will show you the other third in a minute. So I've tried to make this video before, and ultimately it was taking too long, and I didn't need to go into as much detail, but I just do want to point out a few things. One is that I use these clear, mostly shoe-sized bins, and they're all labeled, or in the process of being labeled. I actually ran out of the labeling tape the other day and had to order some new, so it's not quite done yet. But and all the ones that are on these top shelves are pretty lightweight, and I get to them fairly often. I need to move the top one to get to the bottom one, but they're, as I said, they're lightweight and it's not a big deal. And I find this size really, really useful. In fact, I use this size of the clear shoebox in a number of places throughout the house. The next shelf down, I've got these square containers. I got them from the Dollar Tree, and I have 12 that fit one on top of the other on this shelf. And again, I won't go into detail about what's in them. One thing I've noticed about all these videos that I watch is, you know, different crafters have and need different supplies. And so what one kind of crafter will have lots of, I don't really have that many. My primary interests are junk journals, creative journaling, not what typically is scrapbooking, but what I would call smash booking and album making, my own personal photo album kind of things. And so I you know, have different supplies and use different supplies than other people might. But anyway, one thing about this closet is that I have used pretty much every square inch for storage. And one of the things I was going to point out is that I use tiny spaces like this. What's this, about maybe 2 inches? And on here I have these are laminated placemats, and I got a little supply of them, and I use them when I'm crafting or using Mod Podge or making a mess, and I store that here in this little bit of space, and along with this tape glider, which does not really fit well anyplace else, but in this small little horizontal space it works perfectly. And underneath that, this from here to here is actually a banker's storage box turned on its side, and it holds 12 by 12 paper perfectly. I don't use 12 by 12 solid colored paper all that often, so it's perfect to have it here. I've got a couple of paper packs that I've had for a long time that I don't use for other things there, and these 8.5 by 11 paper packs are more like for instance, a boys pack and a girls pack, more for card making and styles that I don't use in my journaling type things. So one of the tips that I have is using boxes like this. This banker's box is surprisingly accommodating and fits beautifully on the shelf, holds things in. It's like having two bookends, but it's easier to get things in and out of. And in fact, in the middle of it, this is a cardboard magazine holder, really cheap. I probably got like 6 for $1 or something like that a long time ago. And that fits well and holds these smaller packs in there. Again, easy to get in and out, cost practically nothing. I also have here stored extra long art kind of paper things. So things that, don't fit well elsewhere. I've also got notebooks, and this is another tip I was going to share, and that is the benefit of 3-ring binders. This one, I've got my clear stamps. I don't use stamps all that often, but I do have a fairly good supply. So, I've got them. I'll pull this out and show you. So I've got them put on this. Actually, the paper that I have them stuck on is some paper that I ordered accidentally. It is, I intended to order just cardstock, and I ended up getting glossy cardstock, and I don't know if it was my mistake or Amazon mistake, but it turns out it's really useful for something like this. So, and then I've got, it's hard to do this one-handed, then I've got stickers in another one, and some die cuts in another one. So I would say one of my top 3 or 4 inexpensive organizing tips are to use 3-ring binders. Speaking of which, this up here that says Scrap Crafts, it is actually, well, it's one I got at a thrift store, and I'm actually going to paint or cover it with fabric, and it's nice and thick. It's got the D binder, so it's on the bottom, and anyway, it works really well, and I'm using that as a collaged family ephemera ancestor kind of scrapbook notebook thing. I didn't say that very well, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. 3-ring binders are extremely helpful, inexpensive, and can be used in a variety of ways. These bins I got from the Dollar Tree, and it's an approach I'm trying for using the many images that I like to cut out. I've tried using them organizing them in envelopes, and I just don't get back to them, or it just seems too cumbersome to me to pull out an envelope, look through everything if I think I want an image of a person or whatever. And so I've seen other collage artists just recommend using a flat bin that they can just flip through really easily. So that's what I'm going to be giving a try. And again, it sits on top of these 2 bins. These 2 bins hold fabric and lace and fabric swatches. I don't get into my fabric all that much. It is easily accessible, and all of these bin type containers, you can pull them out completely, take them over to where you need them, and put them back in. Obviously the larger ones are a little more difficult to do that, but it can be done. Which reminds me, moving over here, these are 3-tiered containers, and I have purchased as many as I could accommodate in this space. And I love this particular style and size because they do accommodate 12 by 12 papers. I've got extra papers on top, so I've got a bunch of cardstock paper pads in these, and I got them intentionally so that they would accommodate 12 by 12 paper pads, but I can also put other things in them. And like for instance, here I have doilies. Aren't these great? I dyed these when I dyed some paper the other day and they came out so pretty. So yeah, you can use other things in them too, and I've got something different down there. Again, I'm in the process of labeling some of these, but this is a size I really enjoy, and I'll show you some on the other side of the closet in a little bit. But again, small space here, and I've got, stuck in here, I've got chipboard pieces. Fits perfectly there, doesn't take room anyplace else. And this is an old 12 by 12 album of places that I've lived, actually houses that I've lived before. I'm not currently using it. I'll get back to it someday, but I didn't want it taking up space other places, so I stored it there. And over here is literally, if you look, I think it's literally about 1 inch from the bottom of the shelf above to the top of this mini chest. And I've got 3 things stored here. I've got my trimmer, and I've got 2 self-healing mats in that space. So one of the things I would recommend is use tiny spaces. Take a look, and if you see some space, you know, think about what could I store there easily and conveniently that would work. Again, to the left of that, between the chest and the wall, I've got a little step ladder. I used to have an ironing board in here, and I realized I never used the ironing board, so I moved that elsewhere. And but I didn't want to waste the space, so I've got a little ladder in it now. Down here, I've got my sewing machine when I'm not using it, and I'll get back to where it's where I use it when I am using it in a minute. But you see this chest on wheels. I got this a long time ago, and it's working well for me. Periodically I go through and kind of rethink, what am I doing? What do I use? Is it within reach? Does this make sense to use this space when I'm not using that product anymore? And so, you know, there's always that periodic reassessment of what I'm doing. Here is another one of those shoebox size plastic bins, and it's got all my envelopes on it. And mostly they're by size, start out small and get larger, but I also have some handmade ones that I've done, some that I've received in Happy Mail, and some junk mail that I intend to use for something at some point. This bin is my current way of storing sort of my miscellaneous basic papers that I'm going to put in my journals, including my dyed paper. I've got all kinds of, you know, packs of different kinds of paper in this, and I do have to shift or sift through it, but what I was using before was just too cumbersome, took up too much room. It didn't work, and I think this is going to. And then I've got 2 more bins on the right with laces and some small ribbons and things like that. Down below, this is my Etsy inventory right now, and some other bins down there I don't need to get into, but my point is that if you stand back and look at the space you have available and see, and you know, really do analysis, what do I use, what do I need near me, how can I store it out of the way when I'm not using it, and really look carefully at how you can use all the space and keep it tidy at the same time. It's really useful. So I got this for Christmas. I'm really excited about that. It has all the little bins, and they're all labeled, and I do use these items, but not very often. This holds them just perfectly and just the amount that I need. And again, I think these are, let me see, three or 4, I guess they're 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, those are 4 of the 12 by 12 stackable bins, and they come out really easily, so I really like that. I can't do it with one hand, but you just put in the side slightly, pull the whole thing out move it over, use it where you're working, and put it back, and it stays pretty neat. Down below is a filing cabinet I got years ago, and I really wasn't using it effectively, but my mom died a couple of years ago, and I inherited, I guess you could say, memorabilia and just some interesting family history stuff and family photos, and I was able to put it in there for now, and I intend to work on it as I work on the that album up there, and to use it in an attractive and useful way. And so yeah, so it's out of the way now. I know where it is. It's labeled. I highly recommend getting a label maker or labeling your packages and bins in some way. And yeah, so that's working now. I'm really excited about this because this little space between the wall of the closet and this here, I used for these 3 new magazine bins that also show off some of my vintage magazines that I have. I just love these things. I've got a wonderful collection, and some go back to the 30s and 40s, World War II, and I even have magazines from 1918. So I am really happy with that. It holds a lot. Pretty much it holds most of my collection, and it's nicely displayed when that side of the closet is open. So yeah, so I would just, I guess my overall take on this closet is just look at every inch of space above and below and think about how to access it, what you can use it for, and it really pays off to give things a little thought. So over here, this is a drop leaf table. This table is closed the way it is now. It's closed when I have guests because, and I'm going to turn all the way around here, hopefully not too fast. The other side of my room has a sofa, which I sit in sometimes. My husband comes in and visits me when I'm crafting, but it also makes into a surprisingly comfortable bed. And when it is open, and I have guests, this is their room, and so they need to be able to get in and out of bed. And so by closing this drop leaf table, it allows that room, it allows them to get past the end of the bed. Most days when I'm crafting, it is open like this. And when it is open, I won't do it now because again, I've only got one hand to do this with. When it is open, I have both usually I have both a guillotine cutter and my sewing machine on it. And if I'm sewing things, I just push my guillotine cutter to the back. If I'm not dealing with fabric or sewing on paper, I'll push the sewing machine to the back and use the guillotine cutter in the front. Yeah. Meanwhile, again, this is stuck back here when I've got company or when I've got the grandkids over. I don't want them to be seeing it, but I love that thing. Use it all the time. I'm a big fan in using what you have, and I already had a Billy bookshelf from IKEA, and that's what I use to hold a lot of other stuff. On the bottom is 12 by 12 albums. I've decided to get away from 12 by 12 albums, and a few years back I decided to switch to standard 3-ring binders, partly because we live in a condo and we'll eventually run out of room, partly because they're readily available, sometimes cheap, sometimes free, and use 8.5 by 11 paper. I've got, these are all personal albums. Some are from my mom's family. This goes back to 1810. This is an album I made with her years ago. Her family, her ancestors, my father's ancestors. I've got albums for trips I've taken, and they're a combination of pages in page protectors and folding out pages, you know, also junk journal kind of things. So that's another recommendation I have, is just really get full use of 3-ring binders. One other tip I have, inexpensive tip. If you've got grandkids or kids, you're changing out pictures, if you use white foam core board, let's see, hold on a second. Foam core board like this from the Dollar Tree, and a cheap frame or frames you already have, and you can put pictures on them. You can use these what do you call those things, photo corners. You can use push pins, or you can just tuck them in and use the sticky stuff like Zots on the back. It's really handy if you've got, you know, if you're changing up your pictures all the time, and especially if kids are in school and they get new school pictures every year. So that's another inexpensive way, and you can use, you know, display artwork. My granddaughter made these a few years ago and was showing off her origami skills, so I put those up there too. So that is another way to change out the artwork. Inexpensive, fun way to sort of decorate your craft room. So center here I have some CDs. I do play my favorite CDs from, you know, the 60s and 70s. I'm old, and I'm not a tchotchke person, but I came across these little frogs doing yoga, and they just really cracked me up. They made me smile, so I got those. And I've got black and white boxes. I tend to keep my decorating black and white. It just seems to work for me. So, and I've got some old books there and there. I plan to use some of the things in them. This shelf here is my own personal stuff, projects I'm in the middle of, or my old junky junk journals and experiments. And these are junk journals, art journal kind of things that I've already filled in. My personal daily journaling, where I do mostly writing, I keep in my room. Here is where I sit and do most of my work. That is my silhouette. I could use it more. I probably should. I do get use out of it though, but it's just very handy to have on the desk there. This is my sort of, I guess you might say, inspiration bin. Sometimes I just sit down and I want to just try something I've seen on YouTube or Pinterest or something. So I'll sit and play, and then I'll finish with it and say, well, what do I do with it now? And I'll maybe just put it in here, and as I sit there I look and I think, oh yeah, I should use those. Here's baking paper made into a little envelope, and you know, I just experiment. I've treasure books. I get a lot of great ideas from treasure books, so I have some supplies for that. Here's some altered index cards, and so I like having them there. Here's another idea I got from treasure books, and so yeah, I do leave that there. Things I reach for all the time: glues. I like keeping a lot of them upside down. Got to be careful with fabric tech though, because if the top isn't on, it can really make a mess. This little bin here, oh, here's another tip. This is an upside down in basket. I borrowed it from my husband, and I've got two more up here in the space between. I'm sort of treating like an in basket. Underneath though, I have a box of punches, small punches. This, by the way, this box is an Apple box, and those and some Microsoft boxes are really sturdy and great to use. I get a lot of use out of the boxes. I mean, they're like something you'd buy at the Container Store or something. Really, really sturdy. These are bins I got at Dollar Tree. I don't use an awful lot of inks, but I do use my vintage photo and some other distressed inks, and I just reach up here and use that. Colored pencils. These are homemade alcohol inks. I don't use paints all that much, but I hope to get into it a little more. So, and then I've got some basic tools here. A ruler that doesn't fit into my drawers, pair of scissors, crocodile, and my corner punch, as well as some wax paper. I can't think of the word, these things right now. But anyway, you know, everybody's gonna, like I said, everybody, depending upon what their craft is, they're gonna have different space for different things. But anyway, back to this. So this is an upside down in basket, and underneath is another apple box, really sturdy. And in it I've got things that I want to use in my own personal junk journal or glue books. And I just, it's nice to have a place to throw them, but still have them out of the way. And then this is a pencil box. I've started sketching again, and I've got some wonderful graphite pencils in there, so it fits really nicely under this. I've got my paintbrushes, more glues. Over here I've just got, here's my postage stamps. Sometimes I just sit at the desk and I'll take bits of paper that are around me and make little clusters, and I put them up here. This is a bits and pieces that I pull from to make the clusters. Another magazine rack with some great classic old books and magazines. This one's from 1918. And I've got a couple of command hooks that I put here. And I bought these items from Dollar Tree, and it's handy to have them here. It reminds me that I have them. I use some of them when I'm making cards for the grandkids or something. And up here is, I started using packaging that comes on the back of packs of stickers or yeah, anyway, you know what I mean, stickers and that sort of thing, all the crafting supplies we get. And when I first started collaging, I thought, well, I'm gonna use those. A nice heavy background. So that's what I've started doing some of my collaging on, and it's kind of fun to just flip through this thing. I've got them on a ring, on a piece of twine, on a command hook. So again, this is using the side of the Billy container, and yeah, more space. So one thing I do that I think is different from a lot of people is, oh, let me back up first. My desk is made from an IKEA top. I forget the name of it. I'll try to put that down below. It's the longest one I could get, and I really like it. It's laminated, and sometimes I forget to use my placemats, and I make kind of a mess, but it's pretty easy to clean up. And I've got it on top of two file drawers. This one on the right has two small drawers on the top and a file drawer on the bottom. This one has two file drawers. And this is where I keep my 8.5 by 11 paper. And I just have it filed by color. Put color tabs, so all the pinks, all the purples, all the reds, yellows, greens, etc. And then I have some in the back for patterned paper. But one thing I do differently, I know a lot of people have, you know, different methods for saving their scraps, but I put my solid color scraps back in the same folder, and it actually works for me. I know right where to go to find a little bit of red to punch out something, or I'm looking for just a small piece for one thing or another. And I pull out from these all the time. I probably let them get a little too full. I just have such a hard time throwing them away. But this method is really working for me, and I don't see any need to change. I've got colors on the bottom shelf, and, or excuse me, on the bottom file. And the top file, I've got white and beige, some file folders, black, and craft colored. And so yeah, that's working really well for me. On this side, I've got, here's another tip. I'm sure you already know this one. Bottom of boxes, make your own little dividers. I reach into this drawer constantly, and as you see, it is cram-packed full. My scissors go here, tape goes here, glue stick and zig go here. I've got a punch. These cards are for spreading around glue on a page, staple remover, awls, and these things, pencil sharpener, and my side here, and the inside set of rulers. This one's got the cork on the back and is metal, very, very useful for tearing paper. These I've got punches, and in the bottom I've got some tools that I use sometimes, but not a lot. I've got my Cuttlebug, and I've got just a couple of dies. Because I have a silhouette, I don't really need to keep dies on hand, but I do have a fair number of embossing folders. So that's there. The thing I grab the most, though, is my envelope maker. It's right in the front. And then I have a heavy-duty crocodile in here. And this tool is something I've used just a few times. It's the, forget what it's called, but it burns plastic so you can subdivide plastic, and yeah. One day I was going to go to, I was looking for more drawers, things to use, and I pretty much decided I was going to get some things from IKEA, but of course then I would have had to put them together, go there, get them, put them together, and before I ordered them, I went to Joann's, and it turns out that I found this, let me see, there's, I think, three sets of three. They are not ideal because you can't see through them, and they're not white. They're kind of a dark brown. But they basically have the exact same storage capacity. And so I bought, and they were on sale, really cheap. I think I paid like $12 or something for all of them. So, and they actually worked really, really well. So, yeah, so there's that. And that's another thing that I change around. I'm thinking, okay, am I using this? Does it make sense to have it there? What would I use more? What would be more useful? And so I do periodically change that around. And with this, with kind of the tape runner thing, you go on and come off really easily, so it's not a big deal to change things around. This cabinet over here is one I had in another room. I brought it in here. And the bottom, I've got my selfie printer and supplies for that, as well as inks for my standard printer. And by the way, I use my, I do periodically bring my laptop in here, but mostly I use my laptop in the living room. And sometimes, let me see here, I do bring it in here and hook it up to both the Cameo and here, and I can, put it on the counter and watch YouTube videos, or or whatever. But mostly I use that in the other room, so I don't need to store that in here. But anyway, this shelf right here, these are all partially done junk journals. I've either just done the cover and moved on to something else, or I've done a lot of the journal but just need to decorate it to my satisfaction, or I've got the signatures but no cover. This one has the cover and the signatures, but I haven't sewn them in yet. That's why it's on its side. So that's what I put there. This, oh, I've got another tip for you. I don't know if you know what Zots are, but they're a, let's see, clear adhesive dots. They're like the gummy stuff you get in junk mail that, you know, you have to pull apart. It just clings. And if you're a card maker, you probably know all about them. I'm going to turn off this light here, see what happens. What I discovered is if you put them in the bottom of something like this little set of drawers, they stay in place. Oops, I wasn't holding it. They stay in place and it doesn't move around. You can pull the drawers around, pull them back, put them back, and the whole thing doesn't move. And I discovered that that also works over here on this thing. I got this at IKEA. It seemed like a great idea, but I ended up having it on, you know, in the house for a long time, and I never used it, and I finally decided I could use it here. But when I pulled out the drawer, the whole thing slid this way until I figured out I can use these Zots, which I already had on hand, put them on the bottom, and it works perfectly. So I got my heat tool, my glue gun, and glue sticks. There, I've got some other tools in here, including my labeler, 2-hole punch, and then this is some card making things. And I'm in the middle of making labels for all of these. Oh, and I got, I was real excited, year before last for Christmas, I got long-armed stapler, which I do use, and now I have a place for that. So anyway, that is all of that. This is the rest of my room. And then on the other side of the sofa, I've got one of these containers. Again, my requirement is that they have to accommodate 12 by 12 paper pads, and this certainly does. I got this from Michael's. My husband put it together for me, and it is, again, I have a lot of paper packs in here, and I've subdivided them by category. And then I've got some extra things, a variety of specialty papers there, and holiday at the bottom. So yeah, there's that. And I think, and I listen to music, I listen to my CDs, and anyway, so I just wanted to share some of this. Oh, I forgot to show you these. As you see, that is cram full, jam-packed full. The top, I've got photos. I've got my high school yearbooks up there, believe it or not, and some other things, and photos that go back to the 1970s. And so I figure I have enough photos to last me, to make albums that will last for the rest of my life. And amazingly, I'm actually working on it. This particular one I just finished not too long ago. It's a photo album that starts in 1976 and goes to 1979. So, and I use, you know, page protectors, and I do some, oh, here's like a, what do you call, baseball card, and then some I've got, yeah, oh, by the way, I have lots and lots of page protectors. Oh, here's one. Here's one that I just, I flipped out. So I do sort of what I call a hybrid kind of albums. And it works for me. It's fun. They're fun to look through. Again, standard 3-ring binder. And so that's what I have in mind to do with all of those pictures on the top. Miscellaneous storage here. This is my storage that I ended up using that finally works for me for washi tape. I can't get any more washi tapes, and I probably have too many now. But it's, you know, a small footprint, and it works. And then I've got just, you know, a variety of things. I won't get into details because, like I said, everybody does different things. Oh, one other thing is boxes. Again, these are shoe boxes covered with contact paper from Dollar Tree. Stick with the white and black color scheme. I've done some up there too. These are cereal boxes that I cut to be like magazine holders. You can see on the bottom that they're cornflakes. So, you know, great, inexpensive, useful storage. So, yeah, I'll end this for now. Thanks for joining me. I hope I was able to give you a tip or two that might help you with your organization in your craft room. But anyway, I appreciate the company. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.